Sam Spruell plays Ole Munch in Fargo 5. I'm at Noble Gold Derby. Sam, I wanted to start things off by asking you, how would you describe the world of Fargo?
Well, the world of Fargo, I suppose, it's a Coen brother creation, which happens to kind of uh, the original film, I suppose, set in the kind of cold and wild snows of kind of the Nebraska area. And I don't know, it's a world of unto itself. It feels kind of isolated and there's a kind of a Minnesota kind of nice, all kind of pervading atmosphere, but really underneath it is there is some kind of dark secrets and dark crimes that are kind of lurking hidden under the snow, I guess. And then the TV show really kind of takes that and uses Fargo as a kind of consistent backdrop, but each season, as your listeners will know, there's a different story, a different crime, and I think Noah Hawley, who created the show, I think he kind of leans into certain aspects as well. He's got a kind of preoccupation with extraterrestrials and also kind of with kind of mythic forces that exist in mid America.
Mm, yeah. Now, in the second episode, your character says, when you send a man in to do a job without all the information, how can you expect the job to be done? As an actor, as an actor, what information do you need to get the job done well?
You always want the information to come from the script. And so Noah wrote this kind of amazing part that he kind of he said in the script that exists on the kind of on the winds of Americans' history. He's from Scandinavia. I think he began life in Wales in the UK. He's 500 years old. He hasn't spoken for 100 years. He's maybe came to the shores of America 200 years ago. So there's lots of kind of crazy mythical elements to this character, which he's kind of gave to me and then said, make of it what you will. And so then I kind of tuned into, I guess, the kind of there's definitely a kind of Old Testament side to this character, which is he exists on the notion that that Old Testament notion, an eye for an eye, and there is a kind of justice to him, even though it's rough justice, which kind of equates action with payment. And so there was lots of kind of interesting, yeah, as I say, Old Testament stuff, but also this kind of mythical person, which was representative of something not quite human. And but I think, I what was most interesting was his Scandinavian heritage to me, because it what it allowed me to do was kind of place where I was going to put his voice.
Mm, yeah. And like I think something so interesting thematically about Fargo this season is the sort of theme of power and strength and where different characters find that. You've got John Hamm's character that sort of sees it in authority and violence and physical sort of strength. You see Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is sort of maybe more in wealth and that sort of power. And you see with Dot, it's sort of hope is where like she gets a lot of her strength. Where's your character's
Yeah.
where does he see strength as coming from, and sort of what's his driver?
I think it is that kind of those Old Testament notions
Mm,
that that if you do something, it has a consequence.
mm,
If you ask me to do a job, then you owe me payment for doing that job. And if you renege on that, that is a deep injustice that will set a chain of events in play, that or will kind of mean that I will get that payment any way that I can, and there is no stopping me until that payment is made. I think those are very kind of simple notions that we can all understand. I think that's his driving force, a kind of sense of injustice. But it's interesting you associate my character with strength. I actually see him as, initially anyway, more of a victim, where you first see him 500 years ago in Wales, and he's asked to kind of eat the sins of the rich. He's essentially a sin eater. And that's come about through sheer kind of poverty and having no choice but to take the payment for ingesting the sins. And I see him as a kind of victim from that point, really, someone who's trapped in a cycle of poverty and sin. He lives in sin. He can't rid himself from that place. And so I always kind of, and I think that has kind of political overtones for how we're living now, really, where people are trapped in a cycle of poverty and sin, and they can't break that cycle. They can't catch a break, and no one has shown them compassion. No one has shown them love. They're only really, his only use in life is for other people's evil bidding. And in this case, it's Jon Hamm's character, Roy Tillman.
Yeah. And like with thinking, is there a particular scene that you just really enjoyed filming?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed loads of it. I mean, I loved I loved kind of doling out this kind of rough justice to the people who deserved it, like Roy or his son, played by Joe Keery. I love the blinding scene. There's something kind of oddly poetic about that scene. But I think the scene I loved most, I think, was the last scene with Juno Temple and her family. I thought that was beautifully written, and it really kind of cut to the kind of political issues that Fargo season 5 explores, and it just basically saying, if this person is shown love, if this person is shown kindness and compassion, then maybe he has a chance to break the cycle of his own kind of ways, the cycle of sin and misdemeanor that he's trapped in. And I just thought that scene was written so delicately with such kind of precision and power. And we didn't shoot it many times, it just came together very quickly, because I think it was just so brilliantly written, brilliantly balanced, and very humane. And it was a joy to act, actually.
And we talking about all the things where different characters find strength and power and stuff, we really see in that scene the real sort of power of forgiveness and real strength of that in sort of this world that we've seen over 10 episodes where so many people are trying to prop themselves up in different ways. We see and find sort of their own sense of power and security. We see really this, how just, especially in your character, how he's responding to this, because it's sort of like he's having to process something it seems like in his 500 years he has never come across before in Dot and her family. And sort of, how do you approach that scene? What's going through your head as you're having to react to this? Because you have a bit to say, but a lot of it is you just sitting and quietly responding to what's happening around you.
Well, I think Noah came up with an interesting kind of notion that he does stuff for people. So in this circumstance, when Dot, Juno Temple's character, is at Roy Tillman's farm trying to escape the people who want to kill her, he sets her free. He takes her out of that place where she's trapped and gives her a gun to survive. And he then he then has done something for someone, and because it's so ingrained in him, he feels like now she owes him, and he really arrives back at her door to collect that debt.
Mm.
But I don't think he's clear about how he's going to collect that debt. But Noah said it's an itch on the inside of his skull that he can't scratch, but he just has to react to it. So he can't help himself but go back and see her. And I thought that was a kind of very interesting thing to play with, partly because it's a kind of compulsive thing. He has a code, almost like an addiction, that he can't do anything else but travel back to her house. And then when he sees her, I think the reality is always different. You know, when you're faced with the human kind of representation of the problem, he doesn't quite know what to do. He's in a state of confusion. And then right from the beginning, he's just he's shown kindness. He's given a drink. He's welcomed into someone's home. People open their lives up to him. And I think he's just finding it so hard to deny kind of the love of a family. And I think through the series, even when he shacks up with that old lady, he's kind of looking for a family.
Yeah.
He's looking for love. He might not be conscious of it, but that's what he's doing. Yeah. And I think a lot of his silence is him trying to kind of deny the love, and then actually and be loyal to his code, if you like. But he realizes that, you know, actually that to accept the love might be the way forward for him.
Yeah, poor old Munch, like, because he's got it sort of comes very full. So the first time we see him, he comes expecting a lady and he gets a tiger. Last time he comes, he's expecting a tiger and he ends up with a savior. Like, she's always not what he's quite expecting when he rocks up to that house.
Yeah, I mean, that if there's a comic element to Munch, there is. He's always receiving what he's not expecting.
Yeah.
You know, and that's he's always kind of playing catch up. I think the only thing he gets to dictate is all the kind of ceremony and action that he throws Roy Tillman's way, you know, and the kind of he can control the kind of rough justice that he deals out to the Tillmans, whether it be Roy or Joe Keery's character. But I think I think he's in a constant state of shock about how badly people can behave as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess also just as an actor, Sam, was there a moment when you knew you wanted to get into acting?
Oh my God. Well, I suppose when I was young, I was determined that I was going to be a basketballer. And then I didn't grow beyond 6'1", and I realized at about 15 that I wasn't actually any good. But I think then at 16 I started doing youth theatres. I started getting involved in plays, and I really enjoyed it. And then I thought, actually, there's a kind of methodology to all this as well. It wasn't just about being instinctual. There was research you could do, and there was kind of preparation you could do, which I always found really interesting. And I think one of the great things about acting is just all the stuff that you can learn, you know, and with this, again, it was so great. There was so much that Noah kind of provided in terms of kind of all the clues and the history to this character, but also the kind of sense of imagination that surrounded this character, sense of creativity. You know, he provided the foundation, not only with his thoughts, but his script. But then he tapped into something in me that has been there since I was 16, which is a kind of real kind of love of creativity, really. And a real kind of desire to be as imaginative as possible. And not all jobs cater for that, you know. Not all worlds require the amount of imagination and kind of original thinking that Fargo does. Fargo really demands that, I think, because the characters are so rich, they're so big, they're so out there that you have to kind of meet it. You know, you have to meet that writing with a sufficient imagination and creativity and I don't know, and just the kind of like, as my mum would say, a fuck it factor, where you just got to go for it, go for something bold rather than something conventional.
Mm.
And Noah would always say as well, which I thought was really interesting, say, "We haven't seen that before, have we?" And I would go, "No, I don't think we have." And that is really exciting when you feel like, and you probably have seen it, but you feel at least that you're creating something really original, you know, and that spirit of creativity, I think, exists now when I'm working on something like Fargo, but it really began, I guess, when I was 15 or 16.
And something that's rare, like that we see in Fargo, is it gives us as the viewers, but I imagine you as the actor too, just moments to sit and let characters breathe and get to know them in quieter moments. Like we're not
Completely.
always
I mean,
oh,
yeah, I mean, that's the joy of television, isn't
yeah.
it? You
Mm,
know, when you kind of over 10 episodes, you can really go on a journey with these characters. And
mm,
especially when there's quite a few of them, this is definitely a kind of ensemble piece.
mm.
But you know, over 10 episodes, you can really explore the depths of that person. And someone like Ole Munch or Ule Munch, he really did have serious depths to him and
Mm.
serious kind of moral dilemmas and kind of crazy Old Testament notions that he carried so deeply in his soul, you know, and then such kind of pain as well. It was a very lonely character to play, actually, because he felt so on his own, which is maybe why that last scene where a kind of family, for all intents and purposes, takes him in felt so cathartic and so beautiful to play.
Yeah. Did you feel lonely playing him? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think I play quite a lot of isolated characters. That's my thing, if you like. A lot of nutters, but also a lot of damaged people.
Yeah.
And damaged people they don't have many friends.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so,
not, not, yeah.
the kind of process of playing those characters
Yeah.
just naturally takes you away
Yeah.
from people, you know?
And not to necessarily say you're damaged in any way, but are you someone that, like, are you a bit introverted where that sort of comes naturally to you, or is that like a real departure from your regular like sort of self?
Well, I'd like to say it is all these characters are a real departure from me.
Yeah.
There's obviously bits in me that align with them, you know, but also I think I do have like some actors have a capacity for kind of excellent romantic acting, you know, or some actors have the capacity to be brilliant criers, or you know, my capacity is for damage and for and to kind of inhabit a kind of violence as well. I don't know why that's happened. I don't know. Maybe it was kind of the people I grew up with in southeast London, or I don't know. But I can create kind of damaged, scary people. I honestly, I'm quite normal. I've
Yeah.
got like I'm a dad and a husband, and I lead quite a kind of boring life. But yeah, when it comes to these characters, I feel like I know how to get there, and that's through a whole different kind of set of things. Always starts with the script, maybe talking to the person who's written and directed it, and getting ideas off them, and then you know and then just exploring different kind of things that I think could be connected with these characters. But the thing with Ole Munch that was so useful was the sin eating, and I read some stories connected with sin eating and the kind of it did quite a lot of these kind of myths originated in Wales in a kind of religious society of Wales and kind of around the 1400s. And reading those was like, now I get the character, now I'm off, and that you just try and hope something will break it open, and then you begin.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And like, just to quickly finish off, Sam, what is acting for you? Is acting for you a circle or is it a line?
My God, that's a quote from Fargo, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean,
You
yeah,
you
it's
well you say life's not a circle, it's a line. What is acting a
yeah.
circle or a line?
Oh my God, that's such a difficult question to answer. I think I'd like to think it's both actually. Sometimes it feels like a line because you know where you started and how raw you are, and you would hope that this line has taken you on an evolution, and you get better as you get older. But actually, the more I'm finding out, I'm trying to get to a place of kind of instinct and ignorance, which only existed when I was young.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm almost trying to unlearn stuff and become more instinctual. So I guess that's where the circle is. It's taken me back to doing plays in youth theatres in my teens.
That's so awesome. Sam, all the best of luck with the Emmy Awards for Fargo, and for in the category you'll be competing for there. And also, people watching this interview can go to goldderby.com to follow Emmy Awards. And Sam, just thank you so much for your time today. It's been so lovely to chat.
Oh, okay, you too, mate.